Broly's second coming takes place in an alternate timeline, before the resurrection of Majin Buu. The story begins in deep space as we witness a Saiyan space pod flying through the air at rapid speed. The pod mysteriously closes in toward the Earth, crash landing away from civilization. The person inside is Broly, seriously injured from his previous battle with Goku and his friends, as he yells out the name Kakarot in anger and powers down. Slowly, the weather around Broly gets colder. Water pours over him and freezes, trapping the now unconscious Saiyan in a block of ice. 7 years later, we catch up with a young Goten sprinting after a Dragon Ball, accompanied by Trunks and Videl, as the three of them work together to gather all 7 so they can call upon Shenron. Each of them has their own dream in mind. Trunks wants his very own amusement park, while Goten's wish is to live in a world overflowing with candy where he can indulge as much as he wants. Their journey eventually leads them to a small local settlement known as the village of Natade, where they meet the self-proclaimed priest, though really more of a fool, named Meloja, along with the village chief, Zalador. During their introductions, Trunks and Goten casually show off their ability to fly, leaving the villagers stunned. In the middle of this, Goten suddenly stops for a moment, sensing a strong energy signature coming from the nearby mountains. Zalador goes on to explain that the villagers are regularly tormented by a monster, and that their only line of defense is to rely on Meloja's empty preaching and the occasional grim solution of sacrificing one of their own. This doesn't sit well with Videl, who openly criticizes the village's morality, and Trunks quickly chimes in, proposing a deal. They'll take care of the monster in exchange for the Dragon Ball dangling from Meloja's neck. The three form a plan to lure the monster out by leaving food for it and hiding in a nearby pot to spring an ambush. Unfortunately, Trunks and Goten's appetites start to get the better of them. Trunks sneaks an apple, and when Goten tries to grab one too, Videl smacks him across the face, leaving him wailing uncontrollably. Crying, Goten pushes open their hiding spot, not realizing that his loud sobs echo far into the distance, all the way to Broly, still frozen in ice, triggering the same infant wails of Kakarot that had driven him to madness long ago. As those cries reach him, memories of his brutal defeat 7 years earlier flood back, and Broly awakens as a Super Saiyan, his icy prison shattering around him. Back at the village, Videl eventually tries to soothe Goten by handing him some food, only for Trunks to reveal that Goten had been faking his tears the entire time. Before long, the so-called monster appears, and it turns out to be nothing more than a dinosaur. Goten and Trunks are completely unimpressed, even taking the time to tease and play with the creature as if it were a harmless pet. Trunks eventually lands a punch squarely on the dinosaur's nose, killing it instantly, and that night the villagers cook it up and serve it for dinner. As the evening winds down, Goten, Trunks, and Videl fall asleep, preparing to continue their Dragon Ball hunt the next morning and finally summon Shenron. The following morning, Videl is abruptly awakened by the sound of booming explosions echoing from a distant lake. Curious and concerned, she quickly takes off to investigate, only to come face to face with Broly, now in his standard Super Saiyan form. Without speaking a single word, Broly casually fires off energy blasts with just a fraction of his immense power, tearing apart sections of the surrounding landscape. As he approaches, Videl bravely demands that he spare innocent lives, but Broly doesn't respond. He suddenly charges forward, throwing a vicious punch, followed by a brutal clothesline that sends her flying. He seizes Videl and hurls her into the water, but before he can follow up, Goten and Trunks arrive on the scene, eager to join the fight. Broly's gaze immediately locks onto Goten, and in his deteriorating mental state, he mistakes the young Saiyan for Goku himself. Rage overtakes him, and his power surges as he launches a relentless assault on the boys. Trunks does his best to intercept Broly and protect Goten, but his efforts fall short, and both are swiftly knocked beneath the water. Broly then unleashes a relentless barrage of ki attacks at the submerged duo, shaking the area with every strike. At the same time, Gohan, sensing something terribly wrong, races toward the battlefield at full speed. Meanwhile, Goten and Trunks resurface and transform into Super Saiyans, returning fire with a volley of their own energy attacks, but their blasts barely leave a mark. Broly effortlessly swings at them and misses, prompting Trunks to make the foolish assumption that he and Goten have the speed advantage. Almost as if answering his overconfidence, Broly retaliates with a massive ki sphere that narrowly misses its direct target, but triggers a violent explosion. The shockwave overwhelms the young Saiyans, sending them crashing into a nearby mining area and knocking them back into their base forms. Broly wastes no time and descends upon them again, grabbing the panicked duo and slamming them hard into the ground. He attempts to crush them under his feet, but they slip free, countering with direct hits to his face that have absolutely no effect. Smirking at their hopeless efforts, Broly continues to dominate, leaving the two scrambling for a strategy. Amid the chaos, the final Dragon Ball they've been hunting rolls into view, stopping just behind Broly. Seizing the opportunity, Goten and Trunks hatch a desperate plan. They'll summon Shenron and have the Eternal Dragon defeat Broly for them. To make this work, Trunks volunteers to distract Broly while Goten retrieves the ball. Trunks taunts Broly, even going so far as to moon him, successfully provoking the Saiyan's rage. While Broly focuses on Trunks, Goten manages to grab the Dragon Ball, but his careless movements cause a pile of crystal spheres to topple, sending the last Dragon Ball tumbling off a cliff. Trunks, meanwhile, now has Broly's full attention. As Gohan closes in on the battlefield, Videl regains consciousness, battered but still willing to rejoin the fray. Trunks, still facing Broly alone, powers up to Super Saiyan once more and unleashes a flurry of his strongest attacks in a desperate bid to hold his ground. But Broly doesn't even flinch. He lunges forward to finish the boy off, only for Trunks to trigger a massive explosion, using the blast as cover to barely escape certain death. Meanwhile, Goten is painstakingly working to recover the final Dragon Ball, struggling to navigate through the thousands of sparkling crystal balls surrounding him. It's a slow and frustrating process, and over by the waterfalls, Trunks isn't doing any better. Exhausted and overwhelmed, he starts to lose consciousness as Broly relentlessly hunts him down. Eventually, Goten manages to locate the Dragon Ball, while Trunks does his best to buy time for the summoning by hiding amongst the rocks and rushing water. Broly, growing increasingly impatient, prowls the area with murderous intent, while Trunks can't help but reflect on the shame of his situation, thinking about how disappointed his father would be to see him cowering in fear instead of fighting. Soon enough, Goten arrives at Trunks' hiding spot, announcing they've finally collected all 7 Dragon Balls. Reassured and regaining some of his confidence, Trunks steps out to confront Broly head-on, instructing Goten to summon Shenron. Goten calls out to the Eternal Dragon, expecting the sky to darken and the dragon to appear, but to their shock, nothing happens. Seizing the opening, Broly grabs Trunks and hoists him high into the air, holding him as if he's about to snap the boy's spine in half. Then, in the middle of this terrifying moment, the unthinkable happens. Trunks, unable to hold it in any longer, accidentally relieves himself, peeing on Broly. Disgusted and enraged, the Super Saiyan flings Trunks across the battlefield. Goten rushes to rescue his friend, but the brief reprieve doesn't last long. Broly immediately retaliates with a massive ki blast, one so powerful that it levels the entire surrounding area. The explosion batters the 2 young Saiyans mercilessly, leaving them wounded and sending them plummeting into the crater created by the attack. Just as Broly moves in to deliver the finishing blow, an unexpected energy blast intercepts his attack and knocks it off course. It's Gohan, who's finally arrived. Descending onto the battlefield, Gohan approaches his injured little brother and Trunks and hugs Goten. He explains the grim reality of their situation. Broly is a bloodthirsty Super Saiyan, the same one Goku managed to defeat 7 years ago. Hearing this, Trunks immediately remarks that it makes sense why no one was able to stop him, not even Videl, which catches Gohan off guard as he worries for her safety. Broly charges forward with unrelenting fury, and Gohan, assuming that the Berserker Saiyan is targeting his father, steps up to face him alone. The two clash in a flurry of movements, trading blows that mostly miss, until Broly counters with a devastating kick that sends Gohan soaring into the sky. Recovering mid-air, Gohan retaliates with a powerful ki blast, leaving Goten and Trunks in awe as they watch a true Saiyan warrior in action for the first time. Assessing the fight, Gohan realizes that Broly's strength hasn't diminished. He's every bit as powerful as he was during their last encounter. Suddenly, Videl launches into the battle, delivering a fearless kick to Broly's face, but the attack does nothing to faze him. Despite the danger, Gohan is relieved to see Videl. Broly, clearly enjoying the chaos, increases his power, causing the surrounding landscape to crumble as Gohan pursues him into the sky. But this is exactly the scenario Broly had been waiting for. With a cruel smirk, he fires a ki blast at Gohan, only for it to abruptly halt just before impact. Then it plummets downward toward the defenseless Goten, Trunks, and Videl below. Realizing the trap, Gohan dives at full speed, smacking the attack away before erecting a protective energy barrier around the three. He knows what's coming next. Broly's blast explodes in a cataclysmic detonation, engulfing the entire battlefield. The violent shockwave batters Goten, Trunks, and Videl so severely that all three pass out from the overwhelming pain. The sheer magnitude of Broly's power tears the terrain apart, cracking the earth until glowing magma begins to rise to the surface. Seeing his friends gravely injured while Broly laughs only fuels Gohan's rage. His aura surges as he unleashes his full strength, transforming into Super Saiyan 2. Broly answers in kind, his power spiking as the legendary Super Saiyan form returns in all its terrifying glory. The two warriors collide again, with Gohan landing a heavy punch that barely phases Broly. In response, Broly strikes back with brutal force, sending Gohan hurtling into the ground face first. Gohan scrambles back to his feet, but is immediately caught in Broly's grip, his back driven into the berserker's knee in a crushing hold. As Broly toys with his prey, Gohan quickly realizes that brute force alone won't be enough to win. He needs to use the erupting magma to his advantage. Mustering his strength, Gohan breaks free with a solid kick and creates some distance. He fires a ki blast downward, momentarily parting the rising magma and using the temporary opening to escape. The molten waves surge back together just as he slips through, engulfing Broly and trapping him beneath the earth. Believing the fight to be over, Gohan loses consciousness near the lava's edge, only for Piccolo to swoop in at the last second and carry him to safety. When Gohan awakens, he greets his friend, but quickly realizes it's actually Krillin in disguise, wearing Piccolo's familiar outfit. Gohan, still groggy, thanks Krillin for saving his life, but the relief is short-lived. From the fiery pit, Broly rises once more, completely unharmed, having shielded himself with an energy barrier. Without hesitation, he fires a devastating blast that sends Krillin flying and knocks him out instantly. Gohan charges back into the fight, weaving through Broly's barrage of ki blasts. But his opponent's relentless speed catches him off guard, and Broly lands a crushing blast that slams Gohan into the ground. Injured and vulnerable, Gohan can barely react before Broly looms over him and stomps down mercilessly. Meanwhile, the Dragon Balls that Goten had collected spill from his bag, scattering across the ground just as Gohan takes a brutal punch to the stomach from Broly, leaving him gasping in pain. Broly begins crushing Gohan in his grasp, mercilessly torturing the young Saiyan while the scattered Dragon Balls start to emit a faint, ominous glow. All around them, the battlefield is littered with unconscious allies, Trunks, Videl, and Goten. But even amid this desperate scene, Goten and Videl begin to wake up, unwilling to let the fight end here. In a last-ditch effort, Videl hurls a jagged crystal shard she picked up earlier at Broly. The legendary Super Saiyan casually diverts his attention, effortlessly shattering it into pieces. Unfortunately, the attempt drains the last of Videl's strength, and she collapses back into unconsciousness. Seeing her fall ignites a fire in Gohan. Fueled by renewed determination, he tears himself free from Broly's crushing grip and shouts that he's had enough. For the first time in the entire battle, Broly responds with a chilling, deliberate sentence, "Not until you lie dead at my feet." Rising to higher ground, Gohan powers up once more, his aura surging as he ascends into Super Saiyan 2. He begins charging the iconic Kamehameha, while across from him, Broly gathers energy for his monstrous Omega Blaster. The two attacks launch simultaneously, colliding mid-air in a violent struggle of raw power. Yet, Broly's overwhelming energy quickly begins to overpower Gohan's beam. Just then, Goten leaps to his brother's side. He powers up to Super Saiyan and adds his own energy to the Kamehameha, standing shoulder to shoulder with Gohan as they push against Broly's Omega Blaster together. Even with their combined strength, the boys struggle under the crushing force of Broly's attack. Trunks regains consciousness just in time to witness the stalemate. Goten, feeling the weight of the hopeless battle, silently wishes that their father was there to help them. His heartfelt wish echoes across the battlefield, and the Dragon Balls react. Suddenly, a familiar voice booms from the darkened sky. It's Goku. Miraculously, he appears before them, descending to the battlefield and landing beside his two sons. Without hesitation, he transforms into a Super Saiyan and joins them, unleashing his own Kamehameha. The unexpected appearance of Goku throws Broly off guard, but the warrior recovers quickly, pouring more energy into his Omega Blaster to crush the family. Goku, calm but firm, urges Gohan to focus his energy and tells Goten to cast his fear aside, reminding them that the fate of the Earth depends on their unity. The trio pours everything they have into their beam, gradually starting to push Broly's attack back. Sensing the shift, Broly laughs and unleashes an even greater surge of power, shattering chunks of the surrounding landscape as the ground cracks and collapses beneath them. On the sidelines, Trunks summons the last of his strength to charge a small ki blast. With his energy nearly depleted, he hurls it into the fray before blacking out once again. Broly, thinking victory is already his, doesn't notice the clever maneuver until Trunks' energy forms a barrier against the Omega Blaster, destabilizing the attack. The weakened energy sphere can no longer be reinforced by Broly's blasts, and Goku seizes the opportunity, commanding his sons to pour every ounce of power into their final Kamehameha. The combined father and son's assault overwhelms Broly's Omega Blaster, surging straight toward the legendary Super Saiyan. Broly desperately tries to shield himself, but it's futile. The Kamehameha engulfs him completely, blasting him off the planet and into the void of space. Hurtling uncontrollably toward the burning sun, Broly screams Goku's name one final time before his chest bursts in a violent explosion, his body disintegrating in the sun's fiery inferno. This time, the legendary Super Saiyan is gone for good. As the dust settles, the Dragon Balls scatter, and Goten and Gohan turn to thank their father, only to find that Goku has already vanished without a trace. With the battle finally over, Videl rushes to Gohan's side, happy that he's safe, though she can't resist chasing him around in playful frustration for not stopping Broly sooner before she took her beating. At the same time, Trunks and Goten wander back toward the nearby village, eager for a well-deserved snack. The movie closes on a funny moment with Krillin still stuck in the rock where Broly launched him earlier, completely forgotten by everyone.